Hey, here's a throw of the dice. There's no 7 in there, though. How do you know the result of an election? You know how you can know the result of an election? The spin of the electrons. You know how that works? I watched a video last night, and nothing is a coincidence by why my mind will choose to watch something, which means I'm spending time, actually just energy, to experience somebody else's energy, somebody else's consciousness, how they experience who they are, the information or the knowledge that is held within their light they share with us. So I watched a video last night by a gentleman of the name of Greg Braden, Braden. He has a professional, a spiritual relationship with Native Indians because he told us so. I believe that he was living up in New Mexico, and near I believe it's Santa Cristobal Mountains. Don't quote me on that, but somewhere up in outside Taos, I believe outside Taos, New Mexico. But the importance of that video cannot be understated because he talked about healing. And he talked about a relationship that he had with a Native Indian where they were talking about the fact that New Mexico was experiencing a severe drought. They hadn't had any rain in a long time. Now, Indians know how to do what's called a rain dance, okay? And one of the things that he talked about was how this Native Indian took him up to what really is a heart wheel, but in this case it's called a medicine wheel, and talked about how when it comes to, as they were putting it, praying for rain, okay? Now, there is a difference between, and this is where we get into the religious indoctrination stuff, okay? There is a difference between knowing things, which means knowing the result, and then asking for the result, which means you're waiting for that result to happen. So you're asking, essentially, to pray for something, okay, that hasn't happened yet, rather than experiencing within your own soul something that's already happening in real time. And the reason for that is whether you're giving your energy away or whether you're using your energy to experience what you know has already happened, which means the rain has already happened. But to experience the rain happening means what you believe will happen in the future is happening right now because there isn't a clock. There's only energy. So you can experience the energy of what you are experiencing by knowing that it's raining. That's manifestation. That's how you manifest the rain to come to pass. And that's how it happened. So he was using another example of where he showed an operation that was taking place, as I remember it, in China, where a particular individual had a tumor. And apparently it was in a place that was inoperable without producing a risk to the person's life. So they went back to what's known as traditional, ancient, spiritual knowledge of how to heal using consciousness. Okay? The power of your own state of mind. So what happened was he showed the film, because it was filmed, where he showed how these particular people came in to where the procedure was going to take place. You could see where the ultrasound was being used, where you could see the actual tumor that was in the bladder. You could see how the people outside were doing sort of a mystical chant in their own mind. And what happens is the combined use of those minds that were focusing the intention of their consciousness and their energy to know in their own mind what has happened is a state of mind that the person is in where that tumor does not exist within its mind. That's sort of how the placebo and what's known as the nocebo effect happens, which means if you truly believe that you have the power in which to do it, there will be no doubt. Which means you know that you will experience the result of what happens in that light because the event is happening on the event horizon that is held within the light of all possibilities between past, present, and future electrical potential possibilities. So this is where mass media, for example, plays a big role in the result of the event that we all experience. That's why, for me, when I think of whether, for example, President Trump has already won, he's already won. I've already experienced the future result in eternity of what happens, which means I'm experiencing within my own light the fact that he won. Okay? This can also be, how do I put this, quantified on the electromagnetic spectrum when you think about who won World War II. Was there a different outcome? That depends on how much psychic energy, how much energy that represents the units of consciousness that we're experiencing on their timeline, the amount of energy that is focused and intended upon believing what they will experience is what they experience. So that is why the CIA was hell-bent on controlling all of the media, which means all of the methods, or how do I put it, all of the exposure routes in which their state of consciousness has an interface with our state of consciousness. Their state of consciousness represents something that is a parasite because it's feeding on our light to drain our light to experience lower frequency density experiences. So that's why when we read their publications, when we listen to their music, when we watch their TV screens, when we listen to their radio broadcasts, we are experiencing who they are with our state of consciousness, their state of consciousness, communicating to our state of consciousness, which is lower frequency density consciousness. So the vote that was cast in favor of President Trump was a vote of consciousness wanting to separate from the lower state of consciousness they have been held captive to, which are demons. That's how they change a timeline, how they change the result through what more units of consciousness believe is true or false. How many units of consciousness in America already know that President Trump won? The result of what we all experience in America on who won is by how many units of consciousness believe he won. That belief will become what we all experience. That's why they called races back in the day, in the previous ones, before all the votes were counted. That's why they used to go out and take polls. Remember, in the afternoon, they would have what were known as pollsters? Pollsters. Pole, as in magnetic poles. The red pole, the blue pole. The peace and the harmony between the poles, which is the balance and the harmony between the black hole and the white hole. The balance of the energy between what we don't see and the energy that we do see, which is the light ahead of us, which is our light in the mirror, which is what love is in living spirit. Trump represents the light. Those of us that live in the light know that President Trump represents the light. Those of us that know that there is more light in here know that's why Trump already won. That's why he will win the election. Those that know that are the ones that believe that, because we know that, because it is the intention of more light that is going to make it so, because love is more powerful than fear. They fear President Trump winning the election because they live in fear of what love is. This is the difference between parasites versus energy givers. Weak magnets versus more powerful magnets. Low frequency density consciousness versus high speed density consciousness. Hell realm captivity versus heavenly realm freedom. Electron captivity harvesters versus electrons that are seeking the spiritual light pathway of knowledge to free their minds' electrical current to power the increase in speed of their Merkaba to spread more light and restore sanity. Because living in fear of what love is insanity. That's what chaos is. That's why it can't let go of our minds. That's why it can't let go of our batteries. That's why it can't let go of how much current we can power our light with, because that's what they feed on. And that's why they try and hold us captive to the election that we know the light won. Have a great day. Bye now.